Oh, how's everybody doing today? I certainly hope you're doing well. You know what it's time for? It's time for another edition of Story Time. It sure is. Monty's had this one done for a couple of weeks. I got a little bit too busy in life, and then just, you know how it is, right? So this story here, I like to let people know whether or not it's a true story. It's not a true story. It's a story of which Monty created. The name of the story is Mr. WREE Paint. But that's going to be M-R-W-R-E-E-E and then paint. Like Mr. WREE, right? Let's go ahead and start, shall we? Well, there's a younger man about his age, about 35 years of age, and he was the only child. And he was out of the state of Oklahoma. He sure was. See, his father passed away about 6 months ago. That's this year, too. And, of course, he willed him out his house and all of his worldly possessions and his boat and his cars and trucks and all kinds of crazy stuff. He also willed him down what is called a patent. You see, when you invent something, you have to have this thing called a patent, so that way you can sell your product to the national community or the international community. So actually there's two patents. There's a national patent, and then there's an international patent. And what that does is it protects the inventor from other people stealing his idea and making their own product and then selling his idea. That's what a patent is for. But it doesn't work these days because you have big old countries like China that will replicate exactly what you did, except change one little fraction of it, call it something else, and sell tons of them. But you see, Martin's father willed him his patents. And he had two patents. Both of the patents had to do with paint. Oh yeah, sure did. Martin wasn't really interested in the patents. Because you see, Martin kind of like worked on his own, got his own job. Even though it was in the paint field, he wasn't painting houses, he wasn't painting businesses, he wasn't doing interior paint or exterior paint, but he was selling the paint. Oh hell, he'd been working at this store for about, I don't know, 4 years. He worked himself right up to the manager's position. I tell you what, he could sell anything. He could sell the ice cream to Eskimos. That's how good of a salesman he was. Yes sir, yes ma'am. So he wasn't really interested in that sort of thing. Hell, he'd been living in that house that was willed to him by his father for about 6 months, and he decided, you know what, he's making all this money because he's been a manager at this paint shop where he just sells the paint. He mixes the paint, he sells the paint brushes, and then he sells the drop cloths and the sanding blocks and rollers and pulls and ladders, you name it, he sells it, and he's a top salesman. But he's also the manager. So he's making pretty good money, because not only is he making his salary, he's also making commission. So he decided that he's going to do some remodeling. He decided that he's going to kick out one of the side walls of the garage, and he's going to expand it to turn it into a 4-car garage instead of a 2. So one day when he got off of work, he decided to walk into the garage. He brought his trusted tape measure with him. He's measuring this way and he's measuring that way. Then he walks outside the door, because you see, this garage is separate from the house. It's like its own structure. So he opens the door there and he walks out. He walks on the other side of the garage. He's looking around. He's got his tape measure. He's measuring what he believes would be 2 more cars. And he measures this way, and he figures he's got to get permits, and he's got to get a contractor and all this stuff. So Martin walks right back into the door there. He's looking around, he turns on the lights, and they have these fluorescent lighting in there. Kind of strange for a garage, right? And the garage isn't finished, it's got drywall. You know how it is when they do drywall, they put like a line here and a line here, and they're mudding it all. It's not even painted. No, it's not. But that doesn't matter, because he's going to knock out that wall. He's going to expand it anyway. Yeah. So as he's looking around, he notices one of the lights is just a flickering like this, right? And he looks up at it. He also notices that there's an attic to the garage. He never noticed that before. And it's one of those ladder on a string. You ever seen those? So he reaches up and he grabs the string there and he pulls it down. This little ladder comes down. He unfolds the ladder. He crawls up there. And son of a gun, the attic of the garage is finished. It's got a hardwood floor on it. It's something else. He couldn't even believe it. Now, why the hell would somebody finish the attic above the garage? So he crawls up there, and he's got to kind of huddle down a little bit so he can peer around, look around, and see what else is in there. He notices there's a big old pile of papers, looks like blueprints or who knows what. He looks over there, and there's a can of paint. Oh yeah. And it says Proto Power Paint in a black Sharpie on the lid. And next to that, it says WREE Paint. M-R, period. W-R-E-E, Paint. He starts looking through all these plans and stuff. And when he started looking at Mr. WREE Paint, that's what he was interested in, because his last name is WREE. His father's name was WREE as well. That'd be Jake. See, Jake WREE, he invented a paint that is so bizarre, you would think that nobody would buy it. Oh, but yes, they would. And Martin's going to find that out real quick. He sure is. He's got a patent on this paint. It's not patent pending, it's a patent. He's already got the patent. So he could sell it in mass quantities if he so choose. But you see, Martin's got to figure out what's the ingredients of the paint so he can replicate the paint in order to sell it. And as he's looking through all the plans there, for the mystery paint, that's what he's interested in. He's not interested in the proto, because it says Proto Power Paint. That's prototype. Right? Even though he's got a patent for it. Right? You see, the funny thing is, old Jake WREE, he used to be a painter. But he wasn't just any painter. No sir, no ma'am. He was a painter for battleships. Up in Maine. That's right. For the Department of Defense. He'd get up on those battleships and they'd have them all hoisted up there, and he'd be painting a big old 45 or whatever number was on the side of the ship there, or aircraft carrier, or whatever the hell it would be. Yeah. He painted the inside of these big old ships and aircraft carriers. He painted the outside of these big old ships, aircraft carriers. But you see, old Jake, he was an inventor too, because after all, he invented mystery paint. And of course, he's got the Proto Power Paint. So as Martin is looking through all his father's documents and his writings and his notes, he comes to find out, for the mystery paint, Jake, his father, stated that if you were to place your hand, your entire hand, into that can of paint, when you pulled it out, not one drop of paint would be stuck to your skin. Martin's like, no, that's impossible. No. That's impossible. Martin would know, because he's been a manager over there at that big old store for about 4 years. He's a hell of a salesman. He sits there and mixes paint. and match his paint to any color you want. He knows damn good and well that's impossible. Because sometimes he gets so much paint on himself, it'll take him 3 hours to wash it all off. So Martin decided, you know what? He just happened to have a paint key on his person there in his pocket. You know what a paint key is? Yeah, that's the thing to just prise open the lid of a can of paint. He gets over there and he pries that open. And he looks down and the color of this paint, almost like a neon blue. It's kind of strange looking. He gets to thinking, let's just see if this works. He takes his sleeve like this and he rolls up his sleeve a bit there and he takes his hand and he puts it right into the paint. Just like moving his fingers around, make sure it gets all on his finger. He can feel the paint all over his hand, right? He pulls it out and not one drop of paint is on his skin. Nothing. He's looking on, he's like, wow. This is value. This is valuable. Oh my gosh. This is incredible. How's this possible? And in Jake's notes it said that the paint will stick to wood and plastic and glass and concrete and metal and all kinds of things, but it will not stick to your hands, and it won't. Oh, I tell you what. Martin can see the value in this. He sure can. But he needs to mass produce this, so he needs to sign what is called the non-disclosure agreement with other industries or manufacturers that would manufacture this paint in bulk so that way he could sell this paint. Right? So he picks up the paint, heads down the ladder, sets it up on the counter in the garage there. Oh, he's so excited. But hell, this is a secret. He can't tell anybody about it. He's got to be careful what he does. He brings it in, takes his can of paint, puts it in his gun safe and locks it up. Sure does. That's how important it is. He starts making phone calls, all these manufacturers, both nationally and internationally. He's got the patent, so he's good there, right? Hell, a couple of weeks go by, a couple of months go by. He's got a deal. He's got a deal with the manufacturer. They've already tested the substance to find out all the chemical makeup of the paint, to find out every ingredient of the paint. He's going to call the paint mystery paint. That's going to be Mr. WREE. Because after all, Martin's also a WREE. It's Martin WREE. WREE. I tell you what, he signs all these contracts. He gets his first shipment of 100 cans of mystery paint. He's got his own little label on it, little sparkles and stars and that. You see, what people don't understand is the women are going to love this. Because women love to paint. Women love to change the color of their homes and different places, maybe their little ballrooms and their office buildings, and pick something. They're decorators. They love that stuff. But they don't like it when paint gets all over them. They can't get it off. They don't like it when they got to spend hours, just like Martin does, having to remove paint off his hands. No, sir, no, ma'am. So there's value in this. There sure is. Oh, yeah. So as he receives this pallet, he talks to the owner of the store in which he's working as a manager. And he says, listen, I'd like to try to sell this mystery paint. And here's the thing. You can put your hand in it and it will not stick to your skin. And the owner of the paint store, oh, nonsense. Oh, quit it. Stop it. You're killing me. He goes, no, I'm serious. Watch this. Takes out his paint key, opens up a lid off the pallet there. Right? Puts his hand in it, pulls it out, not one drop of paint on his hand. He turns around, takes a brush, he paints it on the piece of plastic, then a piece of wood, then a piece of drywall. Oh my gosh. The owner is dumbfounded. He goes, oh, hell yeah, you can, but I want 20%. Well, Martin said, hell, that's fine with him. I tell you what, in the first week, you get old Martin there. He's mixing paint for this one, that one, that one, this one, all these different people. He goes, listen, you should try this mystery paint. People are like, what? Well, what do you mean? He's explaining it to him. He's dipping his hand there, pulls it out, doesn't have any paint on his hand. Oh, it's fascinating. He's sold that 100-can pallet of paint, in about 30 days. Wow. Oh, that's something else. He's selling them for $20 a can, flat. Oh boy. He's making some serious money now. He's making big money. Super money. Before you know it, he's going to have that garage. He's going to be able to have that garage, that wall kicked out, turned into a 4-car garage in no time. Boy, he's making the money. You see, the owner of the paint store came up to Martin and said, "Hey, listen, do you know the exact ingredients of that?" He goes, "I really don't. I have some sort of contractual agreement with this manufacturer over here in a totally different state. You know, they handle all that. I don't even know." He goes, "Well, certainly, you must have at least one can left." He goes, "No, all of them sold out. Sorry, all of them have sold out." But you see, he does have one can left. What can is that? Well, that's the one in his gun safe. That's the one that he found in the attic above the garage, in the finished attic above his garage. Yep. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Oh, I tell you what, it's something else. You see, the owner of the paint store, he's got to get the ingredients of that because he's got ideas of his own. Maybe he'll change one ingredient. Maybe he'll make the paint his instead of Martin's. That's what he's thinking. He's up to no good. You bet on that, right? So he goes, "Where did you get the idea to make this paint anyway, Martin?" He goes, "Well, actually, it's my father's idea. It's his paint. I mean, I got to give credit where credit is due. I sure do." He goes, "You know, it's the darndest thing." And I see old Martin, he's oblivious to this. He's oblivious to the fact that the owner of the paint store is up to no good. And he wants to essentially steal Martin's idea, or rather Jake's idea. He's up to no good. But I tell you what, here we go again. Old Martin's oblivious to it. He doesn't even think anything of it. He goes, "Well, see, what happened was, you know, of course, you know, my dad passed away." He's talking to the owner there, right? He goes, "Yeah, my pops passed away there, and he willed me all this, you know, stuff, you know, the house and his cars and boats and all this stuff. And it was the weirdest thing. I was thinking about doing some remodeling in the garage there, and I noticed that the fluorescent light was a flickering, and I looked up, and it had one of these, you know, string staircases, you know, you pull down from the attic, and this ladder comes down, or staircase, right? I go up there, and the whole attic is finished. I had like hardwood floor. It was just crazy. And then the paint was there. Then all the, you know, all the writings and everything. It was fascinating. But you see, Martin already told the owner that he didn't have any more paint. So now the owner is thinking to himself, wait a minute. He's going to have the original can of paint from the patent that he made with the manufacturers, and chances are it's up in the attic. But it's not. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, that can of paint, the mystery paint, that's in the safe under lock and key. But there is another can of paint up there too. It's called Proto Power Paint. Oh my. Oh my. Isn't this fun? It sure is fun, because I bet you can guess what's going to happen next. And you're absolutely right. The owner is going to break in that garage and go get that paint so that way he can get just a sample of it. Just so he can get a sample and have it tested with all the ingredients, and he's going to change one little fragment. He's going to turn around and steal Martin's idea, or excuse me, Jake's idea. And he's going to go in business for himself as far as it comes to where this paint doesn't stick to your skin, right? He's going to turn right back around. He's going to fire Martin. And it's on. Because that's how people are. They get greedy, you know. 20% wasn't enough for the owner. Nope. So he tells Martin, he goes, "Martin, you might have to stay late tomorrow, because we got some big wigs coming in. We're trying to get this contract. But I tell you what, you should really illustrate the mystery paint to them, because I'm sure they're going to be dazzled." And seeing that you're all sold out and that, maybe you can just tell them about it or do a video or something, right? So he goes, okay, I already put another order in for another 100 cans. That won't be here until next week. He goes, but listen, tell them all about it. I'm sure they'll be very interested. They won't believe it, but you and I know it's real. All the customers that bought the paint know it's real. But you might have to stay late, okay? Oh, yes, sir, no problem. So here he is. He's at work. At lunchtime, you see, Martin usually goes home for lunch because it's real close by. He comes back and goes back to work at the shop, and while the owner steps in about 3 o'clock and says, listen, have those guys come in? He goes, no. Martin says, no, those guys didn't come in yet. He goes, well, they'll probably be here between 4 and 6 p.m., I'm guessing. I'm not sure. But just stay here until they arrive. He's like, okay. But you see, ain't nobody's going to show up there. There's no big company. There's no big contractor. That is just a way to make sure that the manager of the paint store, to make absolutely positive that Martin stays there while the owner is over at Martin's house, breaking into his garage and stealing that paint. Oh, he's got a big old surprise coming for him. He sure does. He does. He doesn't even know it. And Martin doesn't know it either. Because if you remember, old Martin, he didn't open the other can. The Proto Power paint. He didn't open that up. He wasn't interested in that because it was a prototype. Even though there's a patent on it, big deal. And plus, it didn't sport his name. So the manager races over there. He's looking around. He knows he's got to kind of like maybe crack the lock a little bit. In other words, not break the door. Not make it look like somebody broke in. All he needs is just a sample. So in his mind, he believes he's not stealing because he's only going to get a sample. The darndest thing. So he's in there and he's got a little pick in that and he's teetering around with the doorknob and opens it up. He walks in there, turns on the light, and you got those fluorescent lights. He looks up there, sees that string. He pulls on the string and the ladder unfolds, right? Little stairs there. He walks up there. Sure enough, it's a finished attic. It's so strange. It's so bizarre. He looks over and there it is. There's a can of paint. Ha ha. He's thinking, oh my, oh my. All he needs is just a sample. So that way he can get a chemical test to find out all of the ingredients in the paint so he can replicate it, right? He goes up there and he sees all these papers there and he's reading through the papers, just spot reading because, you know, he's got to get in and out of there, right? He starts reading about the mystery paint and how it doesn't stick to your skin. No matter what you do, it's not going to stick to your skin. And it might stick to your fingernail a little bit, but it will not stick to your skin. And he's going through all the patent numbers and how long he's had this idea and how he got the idea and when he used to work in Maine as a painter for all these battleships and that. Then he came across the information about the Proto Power paint. And the Proto Power paint, it said specifically, do not place your hand 18 inches or closer if the lid is open. Don't do it. The owner's looking at this information. He's like, what the heck does that even... do you see how ridiculous is it? It's supposed to be paint. Okay? When you're painting something, you have to take the brush and put it inside the paint. How ridiculous. He's thinking, oh, this is just doesn't sound right. Okay, he just discards it. He gets out his paint key. He goes over to the Proto Power paint. It's not the mystery paint, it's Proto Power paint. Sure is. He takes that, takes off the lid and he looks down in it and this color is kind of like a gray. Kind of strange. He's looking down on it like this a little bit. And he notices the paint starts moving around by itself. Almost like something's in there, like a fish or something. Ooh, it's kind of creepy, right? He's looking around. And the owner of the paint store, he's looking for something to stir that with, see? he looks over and way in the corner there, you can see a whole stack of these stirrers. You know, they're made of wood and such. He reaches over there and he grabs one of those and he sticks it inside the paint. He's only about this far away from it too. He's supposed to be 18 inches away, wasn't he? He didn't follow directions. So he starts stirring and all of a sudden it stops. And he tries to move it and it won't move. He tries to pull it up and it won't pull up. Then it starts pulling, and then another hand grabs him like this and starts pulling him in the can. Oh yeah, he is screaming so loud. You would think his life was about to end. And it is. It sure is. Because his hand has got him and is pulling him down in the paint. He's this far down in the paint. Hell, only can's about this much. How is that possible? Oh, it's possible, all right. Because if you got mystery paint, you got proto power paint. Oh my. So he's all the way shoulder deep and he's like this and he can't get out. There's paint splashing everywhere. This kind of paint does stick to you. It sure does. I tell you what, it's the darndest thing. Because 6 p.m. rolls around, old Martin, he's still over there at the shop. He's waiting for these people to show up, but they're not showing up. He's putting a call into the owner. He's not answering his phone. Gosh, I wonder why. It's the darndest thing. So about 6:30, he figures, you know what, he's going to call it a day. He's leaving, because they normally close at 5 p.m. Hell, it's 6:30. Well, Martin opens up the garage, park his car in there, and he notices that the rope step for the attic is down. He's thinking, he didn't leave that down. He knows damn good well he didn't leave it down. And he goes up there, and what the heck does he see? He sees the proto power paint. The lid's off. It's laying on the floor. A couple of little splashes of gray paint, like Battleship. Right? Splashed up on the floor. There ain't nobody up there. He can't figure it out. What's going on? Huh. So he goes over to his car there. Finds a little rag or something, because you got to have rags, man. When you're mixing paint and stuff, you always got them, right? Because you're trying to clean your hands and who knows what. He goes in there, grabs a little rag, and he's wiping up these little drops of paint that are on the floor. There's nobody up there. It's the weirdest thing. He takes a lid, he just looks down into it like this. It's gray paint, he doesn't see anything like it. He's like, I know I didn't open this up. What the heck is going on? He puts a top on it and he closes it up with his fist real good. Then he starts reading the schematics of the proto power paint that Jake filled out. Yeah. And it stated that you're to be 18 inches away if the container is open from the proto power paint. And he's like, 18 inches away? He goes, I know I didn't open that up. What is going on? Then he goes on to read that the proto power paint is the most powerful paint in the world. World governments have tried to get their hands on this paint. That's a fact. All of these different military contractors have tried their best to get their hands on this paint. Nope. This paint is so top secret that you must have like the highest level of security even to touch the can. That's what it says in the schematics and in the paperwork that Jake filled out himself. Then he turns over to the next page and he's reading up on this and he's like, well, here's the ingredients and da-da-da-da-da-da, all these chemicals he doesn't even know anything about. And then he says, once can is in place, it cannot be removed. So once can is in place, it cannot be removed. What the hell does that mean? So you see, Martin started getting a little curious. He's thinking maybe he could send that can of paint to the manufacturer that's manufacturing the mystery paint. So he goes over there, he tries to pick it up. You know, the little metal handle, right? He goes to grab it, and it won't move. It's not moving a bit. Why would it move? He saw that there was paint in there. There was paint splashed up on the floor. He knows damn good and well he didn't open it up. But who did? The manager. I wonder where the manager is at. He's in the can of paint. But that's impossible. But no, it's not. No, it's not. Because when you have a force that is so strong, you would be amazed how things are. How things can happen. You wouldn't even believe it. For example, you could have a tornado with 500 mile per hour winds or 300 mile per hour winds that will take a pine needle that is extremely buoyant in between your fingers and shoot it right into a telephone pole. Yeah. You could see 5,000 pine needles in a power pole. It looked like a porcupine. Because of the velocity of the wind is so powerful. Here's a see what I mean? Same sort of thing. That's where the manager's at. He's in the can, all of them. He sure is. But you might say to yourself, well, how come there wasn't any, let's say, clothing or any DNA of the manager? Yeah. It's the most powerful paint known to man. It sure is. So Martin, he tries to move the can. He can't move the can. He kicks the can. He can't kick the can. It's in place. He can't move it. Then he gets to think, wait a minute. As far as the paperwork goes, you have to have top secret clearance to even touch that can. Well, he doesn't have that kind of clearance. But then he gets to think, wait a minute. This is not, it's not even for sale anywhere. How could he get a patent on something that is so highly top secret? He's so confused. He doesn't know what to do. So you know what he's going to do tomorrow morning? He's going to talk to the owner of the paint store. But no, he's not, because the owner is in the can of the Proto Power paint. Right? But why is he in there? Because he was going to be naughty. He thought he was getting his hands on the mystery paint. No, he's not. No, sure ain't. So next day, Martin goes into work. He sure does. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting. Doesn't see the owner. The owner usually comes in, takes the money that they made from the night before over to the bank. You know what I mean? Not a sign of him. He calls up the owner. Nothing. Ring, ring, ring. Right to voicemail. He goes about his day, just does the best he can. At the end of the night, he takes all the money that they made, put it in a little safe somewhere. You know, he is a manager and all. He goes home, he opens up the garage, and he looks up, and yeah, string ladder's still there. I mean, just the way it was. It's the darndest thing. He decides to take the string ladder, he pulls it down, he crawls up there. He's thinking, you know what? I need to see what's in that can. I know it's gray. It's like battleship gray. You know, it said stay 18 inches away from the can if it's open. He pulls out a paint key. He opens the top there and he looks down like this. And you see the paint just moving around like that, almost like a fish is in there. Oh no. Oh boy. He's looking down at that paint, and it's just wiggling around, kind of like a fish is in there, for real. He's looking around for something to stir it with, and he sees some stirs over there in the corner. He walks over to the corner there, and he grabs one of them, and he puts it inside the paint, and he starts stirring it. Then suddenly it stops. He can't move it. He tries to pull it up. Nope, he can't pull it up. Then all of a sudden, a hand grabs him and he starts pulling down into the paint. And he starts screaming, I mean, profusely, going like out of his mind. Sure does. Mm-hmm. He's this far into the paint, right? Into the can. Little drips of paint splashing him about on the floor and such. He's screaming, oh my goodness, you'd think his life was going to end. Kind of like the manager there, right? And the next thing for some reason, he starts screaming his father's name. Jake. Jake! Jake! And suddenly it stops. And he's able to pull his hand right out of the can. I'm Monograph, and if you can't speak freely, you're simply not free.